Okay, so let me weigh in on revealed and clickbait and old school methods of trying to intimidate and whatever else I can think of. What's going on, everyone? You're watching Strength Addicts on all social media platforms, powered by Iron Mag Labs. Make your mark with IML. Visit ironmaglabs.com today. So, the old school would be Milos, and the new school would be Xavier. And why did Xavier record this conversation? Probably to have an account of what happened. Probably because people from the old school wouldn't believe this ever happened. Maybe to create content. Now, Milos really doesn't like the topic of revealed. Apparently that word just bothers him to no end. And as Johnny Bravo said on his video, revealed is not even like a bad word. I mean, if you're going to try to go for clickbait, you could do far worse than that. You know what I mean? But I think that Milos and what happened with Ivan bodybuilding, whatever that was, I don't know the specifics. I only know through Matt and my interview with Muscle Discord and talking to Matt about that, just real tip of the iceberg stuff. I don't really know. But basically, I'm guessing maybe Ivan reported something that wasn't entirely accurate. That happens, you know, social media, especially when you have a media outlet like his. It's about getting the story out as quickly as possible. I never did that. To me, Strength Addicts was never about breaking stories because, you know, when you break a story, if you're lucky and you're on the right side of the truth, then you're everybody's hero. If not, you have to retract. And if you have to retract enough times, you stop being credible and people start thinking that you're just, you know, a mess. It wasn't something that ever like drew my attention. You know, I never chased the hits. That wasn't my bag. You know what I mean? But that's not to throw shade at anybody else. I mean, look, you got to pay the bills. I think that that's something that Milos doesn't understand. I mean, I appreciate Xavier trying to explain it to him. Not that he has to, but look, Xavier here was on, you know, basically on the end that's receiving all the abuse for no reason. He tried to explain to Milos, look, if I do it this way, it's going to get 3K. If I do it this way, it's going to get 20. The fact that he was talking to Milos means that he wasn't trying to do a smear piece. He wasn't trying to hurt Behrooz, right? Because if he was doing that, A, he wouldn't have had the phone conversation with Milos. He would have raced to publish. He would have put out just about anything with a thumbnail and been off to the races and maybe would have had 100,000 view hit. I think that by talking to Milos and trying to get the story correct, he's doing right by his brand, which is Desktop Bodybuilding. He's doing right. And you see, this is the other thing. We'll talk about that in a second. But he's doing right by his brand. He's doing right by the athlete. He's doing right by the coach. The coach, in this case, is his source. So he wants to do right by his source. He wants to do right by the athlete. But he also has to do right by Desktop Bodybuilding. Milos takes that last point to the end zone, as if all Xavier cares about is Desktop Bodybuilding, as if all that Xavier cares about is clickbait, which he's not in the business of doing, but you have to do a little bit of it in order to be successful. Watch Johnny Bravo's video. He talks to you about how difficult YouTube is making it for content creators to be able to be successful. 10 or 11 years ago, Strength Addicts had a video of me drinking a gallon of water. Granted, it was in Spanish. And if there were fewer English creators back then, there were hardly any Spanish. So you had like everybody and their mother watching me in Latin America drink water and, you know, rant about, you know, why I thought, you know, Gustavo Bedell should have won the Ironman instead of Phil Healy or something like that, you know, whatever. Point is, that video had 130,000 views. Today, that video would have 10 views. I'm just saying, you have to do right by your channel as well. And I don't like that Milos tries to sort of brush off Xavier as basically a hack, you know, as a talentless hack, just looking to cash in on bodybuilding, make it big on bodybuilding, and not care about. That's what he's trying to make it seem like in the phone call. All you care about is clickbait. You could do a nice video. A nice video is not going to get anything. It's not going to get any views. So again, like I said, I don't think Milos appreciates the fact that Xavier, aside from being a bodybuilding enthusiast, is a business owner. And as a business owner, has to do right by his business. And how does he do right by his business? By ensuring that enough hits. I said enough because, like I said, he could have had 100,000 views if he was, just all about himself, which he's not. But he has to do right by his website. And a nice video, per Milos's, remarks, would do nothing. Enough nice videos, there would be no desktop bodybuilding. Why would anybody buy advertising if nobody's watching? You know what I mean? It doesn't make any sense. Milos is asking Xavier essentially to fanboy Behrooz, to fanboy, Milos, to parrot whatever Milos tells him. And that's not what Xavier is. I mean, I'm surprised that Xavier even bothered, with the phone call. Like taking it or making it. I don't know if he took it or he made it, but just the fact that he's trying to plead with Milos shows me that Behrooz should call Xavier and thank him. It shows me that he really cares about his source. He really cares about the athlete. He is trying to do right by his brand. And he's being called, all these names by a guy who honestly should know better and should have a little bit more tact, being that he worked in the magazine days and he worked on the podcast days. And he's worked with a lot of companies, and there's a certain protocol that you do, and that's not it. And again, I think something else that we see from the old school that might have worked as recently as maybe 10 years ago, but it shows you the break between the old school and the new school. And I'll be honest with you, the old school doesn't look so good, and I'll tell you why. By the way, I love this energy drink. Have you guys congratulated Martin on winning the Detroit show or on being an amazing bodybuilder? Do you guys still work with him? You should. But anyways, to me, it's just one of these things. Like, honestly, the old school is just so wrapped up in the way things used to be. Let me just jump out and say it. Xavier thought that Milos was threatening him. And he sort of was. And the way that he did it, a lot of people didn't catch. By mentioning Tyler Mannion, by mentioning Jake Wood, by mentioning Dan Solomon, what he essentially did was say, look, I know these people. I break bread with these people. You don't. In the old days, mentioning those people would have had an effect on whatever discussion was being had. And it didn't work. It didn't work. And to me, when he did that, I knew exactly what he was doing. Exactly what he was doing. And those people may now call him, but they probably won't, because those people are from the old school. Tyler is young, but, the guy that just absolutely adores me, if you can hear the sarcasm in my voice, is the one that schooled him. And you don't get more old school than that guy. So even though Tyler is a young man, he has an old man's way of thinking as well, I would say. And so they would not be offended at Milos, a IFBB pro, an accomplished pro, a decorated pro, and now in the coaching world and working with Dennis James, who happens to be very tight to Jake Wood. He's safe. He's safe in a way like Bob Ciccarillo's safe. Bob makes a lot of sting, and he makes a lot of statements. They have a lot of sting sometimes. They have a lot of blowback. That last line there, I was trying to say sting and statement in the didn't work. But the point is that he'll get a phone call, he'll get a private reprimand, but they're safe, okay? Now, what is the alternative? Well, if you're not safe and you name drop those guys, well, now you might actually get blacklisted. You may not get press passes. And you may not, if you do any kind of bodybuilding reporting, every promoter whose content you use, since you're blacklisted, is going to report you. You're not going to have a channel. You're not going to have anything. So I'm just saying there is an alternative. So it's not just, one-sided. The point, though, is that, Milos is not going to suffer out of this. They're going to laugh about this. He's not going to lose sponsors. He's not going to lose friends. Nobody's even going to condemn him to his face. Now, behind his back, of course. Social media, of course. But if you think for 1 second that Chris Cormier or Dennis James, before they tape the next podcast or however they do it, are going to say, man, Milos, you really messed up. Treating that podcaster like shit, trying to push him around, trying to get him what you want him to say, trying to throw a guilt trip on him. You think they're going to say that? No, because they probably do it themselves. That's the old school way of thinking. That's the old school way of thinking. And they think they can push around these YouTubers. Oh, they're just, they're making videos in their mom's basement. They don't have anything going on. They're nobody. That's how they think. Now, they'll talk to you if they see a benefit in it for them, but they're from the magazine days. They had DVDs. They've toured the world. They've faced an audience of a couple thousand screaming their name. They don't recognize what is being done here for what is being done here. It's a different generation. When in reality, the little podcasts like Muscle Discord with that interviewer guy actually have more subs than they do, are more relevant than they are, and the big companies are racing to work with them instead of the old school cats. What can I tell you? It's old meets new. It's old meets new.